Well, hello, y'all. Um, we are newcomers to YouTube, but we wanted to establish our credentials as through hikers, and so we want to give you a bit of history. I'm British, and I came to the United States in 1979, and I did my first backpacking trip in 1980 through the University of California, San Diego outings. It was an associate program of them. So we went backpacking in Anza Borrego Desert. And subsequent to that, I like to go backpacking. I did several backpacking trips on my own, but I found that I enjoyed company more than backpacking on my own. And so I started going on a couple of Sierra Club trips. And I found that they were too regimented for my taste. So I decided to become a Sierra Club trip leader so that I could lead trips the way that I felt that as a participant I would like to engage in these trips. So in 1985 or so, I became a Sierra Club leader and advanced to becoming an advanced leader, which meant that I could lead week-long exploratory trips. And about the third trip I led was a trip in the Sierra Nevada section of the PCT between Tuolumne and Agnew Meadows, and it was advertised as a bus trip. It was one of 3 trips on a bus trip for which a leader was needed. And so I volunteered to become that leader. But because I was a new leader for the Sierra Club, they didn't trust me. And they asked me to go on a backpacking trip, 3-day, I think, to Baja California with 3 of the other San Diego chapter of the Sierra Club outings club leaders. So apparently I passed the test, and they they allowed me to lead this trip in Yosemite along the PCT, and that's how I met my future wife, Patsy. But her version of the story is slightly different from the one that I would tell, so maybe you can introduce your backpacking history and say how you ended up coming on that trip.
Oh, well, I was always interested in the outdoors, and my first backpacking trip, I believe, was in 1975 when I was in college in Colorado, University of Colorado at Boulder. I was taking a summer class and went on a trip, and it was actually a rock climbing class, and I enjoyed it. And since then, I've backpacked usually with friends or sometimes on my own, which terrified my folks. So this one particular trip where I met Richard, I was laid off work, and before looking for another job, I was looking in the Sierra Club outings booklet for something to do, and I saw this trip to Yosemite. It was a bus trip with 3 different trips on it, and so I called to get onto the Whitewater trip, which sounded interesting.
The Grand Canyon of the Tuolumne?
Yeah.
Probably.
And so I called, and that one was full since I signed up late. So I called the second trip leader, and that one was also full. And then the third had no name on it, so I had to call the bus coordinator, and he gave me the name of Richard, his number, but said, I have to warn you, some people find him hard to understand.
Oh, I didn't care why that would be. Huh.
So I was thinking, is he dyslexic?
Oh, no, I'm no dyslexic, man. I'm just Scottish a wee bit.
Anyway, I called him and had no trouble understanding him, and got roped into also on the free day where everybody went fishing or relaxed, climbing Mount Lyell, the highest peak in Yosemite, which 2 of us and another fellow on the trip 3 of us went to climb Mount Lyell, but only 2 of us summited.
Yeah, I have to interrupt and explain that I was ecstatic when Patsy called and wanted to go on this trip because I had a pre-trip meeting and the other 10 or so participants, after they heard what was involved in climbing Mount Lyell, didn't want to do it. And so I thought I was screwed. Here, I wanted to lead this trip specifically because I wanted to climb Mount Lyell, and I didn't feel as the trip leader that I could just go off on my own and climb the mountain and leave all these other participants wandering around on their own. I needed at least one person, one willing participant to take up Mount Lyell.
One sucker.
Out of the blue, Patsy called me and I said, well, have you ever had any experience with an ice axe and crampons? And she said, no. And I said, well, don't worry, it's easy. Everybody can do it. It's like walking. So I conned her into joining me and we both summited the mountain. And that was in 1986. We got married in 1988 and we've been adventuring together ever since. But for many years we were both working, and so we could only go backpacking on weekends and maybe 1 week-long trip a year. And then Patsy retired before me. I retired in 2012, and in 2012 we started doing what people nowadays I guess would call through hikes, and our first through hike was the Tour de Mont Blanc, circumventing the Mont Blanc Massif, going through Italy, Switzerland and France, and that was fabulous. So since then we've started doing a lot of trips. We've backpacked extensively in Europe, in North America, South America, Central America, and we've also bikepacked, and we figure that in total we've probably bikepacked and backpacked, mostly backpacked, a total of about 10,000 miles. So we've logged about 10,000 miles. And a lot of that, a quarter of that actually, was on the PCT last year when we thru-hiked the Pacific Crest Trail, 2018. And it was a result of thru-hiking the Pacific Crest Trail that we decided to thru-hike the Arizona Trail. So that's kind of an introduction to our background in backpacking to establish some sort of street cred. People ask us, how did we train for the Arizona Trail? And so I'll tell you how I trained. I went to visit my doctor. Big shout out to Dr. John Lockie, the best doctor in San Diego. And he suggested, because of my advanced age, that I have a DEXA scan. And the DEXA scan showed that I had osteopenia in the spine, a slight bone loss in the spine. And he suggested to me that the best thing I could do was weight-bearing exercise. So I decided right then and there to eschew the ultralight backpacking ethos and go light, but not ultralight. And so I carry about a 30-pound pack, I'd say, on average. And so as for the training, though, I was afraid that the weight of my backpack would force me to bend forward, and that would put undue pressure on my spine and possibly cause one of my vertebrae, suffering from osteopenia, to fracture. So I decided the best thing I could do was put on weight. So I drank a lot and I ate a lot to get a slight belly, and I figured that that would counterbalance the weight of my backpack and keep the center of gravity of my backpack and body mass centered over my spine and reduce the possibility of injury.
Good idea.
Yeah, good idea. So that was my training for the Arizona Trail. I ate and drank a lot. And yours?
And I also have osteopenia. And so Dr. Lockie told me to do some weight-bearing exercise as well. And so now we fight over who gets to carry what. And
I usually win, though. I seem to end up carrying the bulk of the weight. Huh.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But you were going to the gym also.
Yes, well, last year I turned 65, so I got Medicare and Silver Sneakers plan, which allows me to go to the gym for free in San Diego. And I've never belonged to a gym before, so this was something new, and I really took to it for training, for upper body, and for strengthening the legs, which my legs were already pretty strong, but I think that helped. But now that I'm not going to the gym, I have to do my push-ups.
Yeah, right when I'm going to sleep in the
Inside
tent,
the
she starts
tent.
doing her push-ups. She's like a lizard.
But then I learned from Cookie and
TikTok?
Kashmir
Kashmir.
that you can put your sit pad out and then just do your push-ups on the sit pad. So that's what I'm trying to do.
But other than that, we just do a little bit of hiking every week. We go maybe 3 miles every other Sunday with the John Strout Hiking Society, and maybe do 1 or 2 other shortish day hikes during the week, and that's it. I mean, we haven't done any specific training for the Arizona Trail. We just try and stay in a reasonable state of shapeness, and we start off slowly, so we don't try and pull 20 plus miles right out the gate, because a lot of young kids, especially who've never thru-hiked before, we found that they've injured themselves in the first week and they're off trail, recuperating. So, you don't, especially for a hike like this where it's only 800 miles. I say only 800 miles. That seemed like a long way before we did the PCT, but 800 miles to us now is a fairly short hike. Backpack, and so you don't need to rush. I mean, you can afford to take your time. With PCT, you have to hurry because you have to get through. You have to start before it gets too hot, and you have to finish before it gets too cold. But on the Arizona Trail, 2 months, 3 months, it really doesn't matter. So you can afford to take your time, and so if you take your time, you don't hurt yourself. So we hope that that's helpful to you. I'd like to thank you for watching. And hopefully you'll watch our future videos along the Arizona Trail, and we have other trips planned. This year we're also planning to go to Japan to hike the Kumano-Kodo Kohechi route, a Buddhist pilgrimage route, and then to France to hike the Grand Randonnée 5, the GR5, from Schermec to Nice. That's about 800 miles. And then we have unfinished business in Italy. We've hiked the Alta Via 1 before, Alta Via Uno, and we've hiked half the Alta Via 2, the AV2, but we got stormed out twice. And the second time we got stormed out, we decided to bail completely and go to Croatia and Slovenia. So we really want to go back and finish the AV2. So that's our plan for September. So, thanks for watching.
Wish us luck.
Yeah,
We're not spring chickens.
We're over the hills. Bye.